Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hadeen, owner of Illustrious Hardwoods in Mesa, Arizona. Excuse my voice. I'm a little under the weather. I might have a little bit of NyQuil haze going on. We're going to get through this, though. We're all professionals here. At least Shawna and I totally pretend to be. So, with me this week, I have Shawna Bouchard. You know her. You love her. She's the GoBoard lady. She's out there getting you ducks and all kinds of fun stuff and posting about sausage tubes and foam board. And she's like one of our favorite non-tile people. And so what's going on? We are focusing on teams, accountability, and boundaries. I believe a huge problem facing small contracting businesses is that we don't trust anybody else to go and do it, right? If you want something done right, go do it yourself. Well, when you're running a business, that's probably the worst mantra that you can possibly have, because if you can't trust your team to handle it for you, how do you grow? You can't go do everything. You need help. You need systems and processes in place, which means you need accountability and boundaries and teams so that you can get things done. And you can go focus on getting the next project, doing your own project while they complete one for you, things of this nature. That's what we're going to dig into. So why is Floor Academy here? Well, Floor Academy is here to be your source to move your business forward into a more profitable venture that turns into an asset as opposed to you owning a job, right? There's a difference between being self-employed and owning a business. Many of us are self-employed. None of us want that. We all want businesses. We want that machine running, turning over, making us money, and we don't have to put everything into it. So every week we're here with another interview, helping you to develop better systems and processes so that hopefully after, 25, 30, 40 years in the business, you're not hanging it up and saying, well, guys, I'm getting out. There's my truck and trailer with the tools in it. I need $35,000. Man, that's a sad story. I'd rather say, you know what? Here's all my systems and processes in this binder. Here's how you hire people. Here's how you land jobs. Here's the marketing company. You pay $5,000 to a month. It equates to, $50,000 a month or $500,000 a month in sales. And now I can sell it for a multiplier on my yearly revenue. And that's a way better ending. All right, before we get started, one last little bit, all right? So, behind me, I have if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're not watching it, you're going to be able to find a post in the Floor Academy group. I have a lovely 40-inch, what is this? I got to get it right. This is a 40-inch Sea Lion manual tile cutter with an LED light. Bihui has been kind enough to donate it. We're giving it away in the group. Details to come. Find the post. It's going to tell you exactly what you need to do. Who is Bihui? Bihui is a leading tool manufacturer for professional tiling installers and construction professionals, focusing on large format tile cutters, installation tools, and all types of ceramic and porcelain tiles. With hundreds of products, Bihui continuously focuses on innovation and product improvement based on the needs of the market to provide the highest quality products available. Get your new Bihui tools wherever better tools are sold. All right, go to the Floor Academy group, find the post, and we are going to be giving that bad boy away April 1st. All right, the contest is going to run all through March. So if you're watching this live in the group now, the contest hasn't started yet. You're not going to find anything because it's February 23rd. We got a couple of days. All right, Shawna. Who are you? I'm sorry. I thank you for your patience. Okay. I got to run my mouth a whole lot before we can get going. So now you can take over. All right. Who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it? Thank you for joining me.
I am Shawna Bouchard, the GoBoard marketing manager at JohnsManville. That's who I am. That's what I do. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
I told Kyle, Dwayne's indisposed. We wanted Dwayne to be on this episode, but Kyle gets me today. He said that's fine. Wah wah. No, actually, I think this is going to be a good one. Kyle and I talked about the subject, and it's a good one. And when he asked me the question, in kind of preparing for this episode, he stumped me. I had to think about it. Patience is one of my superpowers. I think that plays to the greater superpower that we're going to talk about, though, today.
Well, it was I stole it from my friend Shannon Vogel, because that's what she's always asking people. She's like, "What's your superpower? Like, what are you really good at?" Right? And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
So we were sitting here trying to figure out what we wanted to do for the quarter, and that was the question. I was like, "Well, Shawna, what's your superpower?" And I don't know. Hold on.
I have to figure it out. It's like any superpower or a superhero movie where they have to figure out what their power is and how to use it, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I do have one. I'm a team player. And that's my superpower. That's of course there's a lot that goes to that too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
To be a team player, you have to have other superpowers as well.
Well, to be able to cooperate within a corporate environment, team player is a huge superpower. I mean, that's why I think a lot of contractors are self-employed, and that's why I ended up self-employed myself. Is at the time, if we, even when I was doing reality television before I got into doing contracting, I stopped getting projects because I was not a great team player. Nobody wanted to work with Kyle, right? So if Kyle can control the show and the narrative, then Kyle's in a great position. Now, have I matured and gotten better about that over the past few years? Yes. Would I want to go work in corporate America? Probably not, but I think I would do a much better job of it now that I'm a little bit older, a little bit wiser, hopefully a little bit more mature. My wife may agree with that, I hope. So, excuse me, but it's a super important skill for sure. Being able to get along with others and communicate effectively is going to go a long way in helping to build a successful operation.
Correct. I think it's not to say that independent or individuals can't be successful. Depends on what you're doing, though. I think you can be independent and successful,
Mm-hmm.
but it depends on how much work you have to do too. So if you're doing this much work, and you can only yourself get done this much work, you need a team, right, to fill in that gap where and that's sports, team sports.
Mm-hmm.
I was in team sports growing up, and you needed a whole team to cover that whole field,
Yes.
right, or that whole court. So because there's rules to the game, right? You can't dribble the ball more than so many times, with one hand, two hands. You have to have so many players out in the outfield to cover that expansive area where a ball could land. You have to have, there's plays, there's strategies. I mean, look at football. Like, look at any team sport. You got to have that coordination and that cadence. So,
Mm-hmm.
Corporate life, you do have some individual areas where you're, and that's part of the individuality within the team is people have strengths and weaknesses, right? So not all jobs are designed the same. So each person has a role to play, and remembering that you have that, you focus on your role because that helps the team, right?
Yes.
And that's where you become that well-oiled machine. You have a cadence. I was also did a stint in food service too, which.
Oh, you better be good at teamwork in food service. That kitchen will not run.
It's a mess. Otherwise,
Yes.
People don't give food service folks enough credit for what they do and how they get it out. Like that was a teamwork experience that that I take a lot of value from moving forward in my life.
Oh, for sure.
Those systems.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
So,
well, yeah, no, a kitchen, like a actual restaurant kitchen is a thing of beauty when it's firing on all cylinders. When it's actually everyone's doing what they need to do on time, in rhythm, they
oh
have the
yeah,
system down, they know what they're doing, right? You don't have a new guy that's screwing everything up. Like it's an amazing thing to
yeah,
watch. And so here, I'll go on a
yeah.
little tangent right now. Man, if you want to get mad at the staff at a restaurant and be like the service was bad and not tip, you're an a-hole. Okay, so I want to think about this from a like this is something I heard, and I think it's absolutely amazing, and it kind of, it plays into all of this. So historically, the only person that got servants, right, if a server is a servant for your time being, would have been like the king or someone of like really high class and wealth. So historically, very, very few people were able to have such a luxury. So here we are in America now, and we get a run out, and we can go to any restaurant and sit down and have someone cook our food and bring us our food. And then you're going to complain that the service was bad. I don't care how bad they screwed up. Tip them. It's part of our culture. Just tip them, and tip
It's
them well. Okay,
right.
you're spoiled. All right.
It's a little. The whole system is interesting, isn't it? It's a luxury
Yeah,
to
exactly.
have people to have restaurants. To live in a society where you have restaurants is a luxury, especially the types of restaurants we have in this country. I mean, there's in society, you have like what, the Michelin rating on
Hmm.
restaurants? Like, that's like, I don't know, how long ago did they institute the Michelin? Like, how long ago did they decide this is the quality that these restaurants operate at, and they get this rating, right? But then you can get some really great service at a local taco stand, right?
Yeah,
And great food, right? But it's a taco walk up street taco stand, right? So it's interesting. Either way, it's a convenience to us and a luxury that we can purchase food that other people have made for us. Um, and interestingly, though, why treat those people like they're lesser than,
that's
right? They're actually filling that role,
correct.
right? Voluntarily in this country, right?
Correct.
Um, Restaurants can make a lot of money when they're doing a good business, and restaurants also are like it's a higher risk business. Yeah, I mean like we saw what happened with restaurants,
Hmm.
a couple of years ago. So, and those folks, when they're not treated well, why would they come back? They're going to take that time and that little extra stimmy and go get educated and find a job where they're getting paid a little more, they're being treated better, they're not slopping out food for people out in the
Yes,
kitchen.
that are disgruntled and frustrated and telling
And
you,
then have to watch those people eat that food and just go, gosh, close your mouth when you chew, quit slurping when you drink, wear a bib, dude.
well, so yeah, and to kind of bring it back here, right? Like those people have to work within the system, right? So if we're going to use the kitchen as the example, the order comes
Yeah,
in and someone has to be preparing the entree, and someone else is preparing sides, and somebody else is getting it all plated nicely, and then the server has to come and grab it and get it out to the people, and then the manager comes around and checks on you. Like
hmm,
if that's not working right, then that's when you're like, oh, the service is bad. It sucks. Well, maybe
yeah,
somebody called in sick, right? How many times have you had somebody call in sick on you, and you're sitting there, telling the client like, hey, it's going to take me an extra day, that they called in sick and everything's screwed up now, or you got
yeah,
to work a 12-hour day instead. That client's not going off on you. So we have to depend on other people. And now in a larger system, there's more people, right? I have backups I can call. There's systems and processes in place to make things easier. If somebody calls in, the work gets divided amongst many people instead of just one person. Like, I get it. But why aren't you emulating this? Right? So how do we go about finding ways to bring that into our business, right? Like, what is, if if you were going to go and you decided, you know what, look, corporate life's not for me anymore, I'm going to go start my own like little marketing venture, what kind of things would you steal from JohnsManville? Like what ideas would you bring? Well, I think that's the best way to think about it, right? Because there's got to be something that's working really well, and you would just be like, okay, I couldn't operate without this system.
For sure. You know, it's in coming to in working for JohnsManville, I also worked previous jobs where I've, you know, going back to food service, right? You take those little bits of education you get along the way and the experiences that you've been in, and you bring it to the next place you end up. And so, you know, just disclaimer, JM, I have no intention of leaving JM anytime soon because I have a goal. And it's not quite, I haven't quite met that goal yet. So I won't leave before a goal is met.
Yeah, those were my words, not hers. My words, not hers.
But the first thing that popped to my mind in thinking about that, you know, going out and starting a marketing agency, for example, you know, I quit my 9 to 5 so I could go, you know, start my own hustle, so to speak. That's the verbiage they use these days, right? Become an entrepreneur. What I would do, first thing that pops in my head is, who am I going to partner with? Who am I going to partner with? And what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses? And that is first and foremost. I think that's, if you have a lot of work to do, you're going to need a team, right? So I'd be looking for who my partner is. You know, and obviously those are people that I've worked with along the way, right? And of course, people that have also drawn on experiences that, again, strengths and weaknesses, right? I know I can't do everything, but what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? And can that partner balance me out in one way or another? Or does it require more than one partner?
Those are great questions. Good to Great is by an author whose name escapes me. And one of he talks about right person in the right seat on the bus. And so I think that's what you're talking about, right? Like looking at the strengths and the weaknesses and being able to say, like, look, I say go build the business so you can do the things you love, right? A lot of contractors want to go do the thing, right? They don't want to be the guy behind the scenes in the books, right? If you don't want to be the guy in the books, like, hey, contact me because I'll gladly take the books and like the back end stuff. I don't want to be on the floor anymore. But it's, I got you, trust me. But it's, you know, they want to go do the thing. They're the artisan, right? And so they don't want to do the paperwork. So go hire the bookkeeper to do the paperwork. Go hire a secretary to handle some of the stuff and setting appointments and taking phone calls. Hire find a way to get a call answering service or something. There's a ton of different ways that you can spend the little bit of money you have coming in when you're making profit that may end up making you more money. And I think that's another issue, is that we think, oh, we got the profit, it's ours, we get to keep it. Man, you got to spend it. And that was a hard lesson I've learned. And it's, you can't take everything out of the company. You got to leave something there and put it back and invest it back in. And you can't get lifestyle inflation, right? Just because you make more doesn't mean you can't. You have to spend it all and increase. Okay, well, now I can afford the boat. I can get the bigger house. I can send my kids to all these activities. Put the money back in and double down. Because it's working. And so find the people. It's a great point of finding the people to do things they're good at that you may not be good at, right? Find that complement so that you're all working together, because as you know, you're the senior marketing specialist, right? So I'm sure there's like junior marketing specialists, or they're called something else maybe, but there's people under, I don't know what they're called, but there's people under you within JohnsManville that you can probably delegate a task to. Hey, I need this done, go do it, right? But meanwhile, you have 3 bosses coming at you from different angles saying, hey, we need this stuff done, and they're delegating the task to you, right? So things are being handed down, the information's going back and forth, but everyone's being held accountable to get it done because there's probably other things in place. So along with knowing to find the right people, now what kind of communication methods are there in place to say, no, I told you this and I needed it by X and it has to be done to this standard, which I think is where a lot of contractors fails. They're like, well, there's that wall over there, or there's that floor there, or here's this bedroom here, you kind of do it like this, and then they go off to do their own thing, and they're like, all right, have at it, and then it's screwed up, and you're like, well, why didn't you do what I said? Why didn't you
right.
So
right, every team needs a leader as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and not every team is a leader of everybody. Like, not everybody can be the leader. So you have certain functions that need to get done, but someone has to be able to communicate that. They have to take the vision, the business, answer that business question. How do we get from point A to point B, right? Develop the roadmap to get there, and then make sure along the way that we're all making our stops and, performing the function required at each stop in order to get down the road, on that roadmap to whatever the goal and the success is. So and then of course there's accountability, not just as a leader to the people that work for you or work under you, making sure that you're there to put out fires for them, or clear out the roadblocks that are holding them up, like what's holding this you're checking in with them. Mm-hmm. So you need that role, right? And then you need the folks that are functioning for the leader to do, because their teammates are dependent on certain tasks to be done so that they can get first. So, and again, this is a sports analogy. Yeah. You pass the baton, right? If the baton is damaged when it gets there, and it's slower, there's butter on it because someone took a long lunch. I don't know. And then, and then the baton is greasy when it slips out. It just causes mayhem and destruction, or, and then it's a breakdown in the system and the cadence. So then, but that happens even on the best teams. So leadership is important, making sure everyone is good at their, embraces some excellence in the getting their part done. Being able to recover from failure too. Say that baton's greasy, whatever. That guy's got to now stop his running. Everyone's got the lead on him now. He's got to go grab that greasy baton, clean it off, do damage control, whatever, and then get back on the road to get it done, right? So the accountability then is, hey, man, the greasy baton doesn't work, right?
Yep.
Which means, I guess, metaphorically speaking, you took too long of a lunch. We were waiting for you to get back with that material we sent you out to get. And now we're behind 45 minutes because this happened while you were gone. So when everyone's locked on and performing like a well-oiled machine, it's no different than any other machine on the road. You get the distance. So, everyone, you got to depend on people. And you got to be dependable. You got to, if you're a team player, you got to say, I endeavor to be dependable, and know my role. Be able to function in that role effectively, so that my team can also function effectively.
Like it. Can I try and throw you under the bus?
I love getting thrown under the bus.
So you talked about vision. What
I'm made of rubber.
What? No. What? What is JohnsManville vision? Do you know the vision statement?
The vision statement. Well, it's the vision statement is
No, do you actually know like JohnsManville's vision statement? Like, do you have it memorized? Do you know what it is?
Oh, no, not word for word, no.
Okay.
But the concept is to be the supplier of choice, the employer of choice. And how we do that is by our principle. We stick to our principles, right? Our 4 P's: people, protection, perform. There's another one.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. So those are going to be your core values then: people, protection,
Your core
performance.
values, for sure.
Okay.
Right.
See, this is good. They're getting it into you, right?
Those have to be established.
Yeah,
sure, certainly.
And that's what I wanted to get into, right? So you're talking about vision and having a leader on the team.
Yeah.
Once again, these small businesses don't convey this message. Nobody knows where this company is going. You have a young kid that's 18, 22 years old that, he's Gen Z, he's lazy, he doesn't want to work. And go find my myth-busting Gen Z talk that I did at Tice. It's coming out on the podcast soon. And go listen to that, and that's a good discussion on this. But what are you doing to communicate these things to them, right? Do they know where you want this company to go? Do you know do you want it to be just you and him, and you're like this great, team? Are you like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid? Like, are you guys going to be Batman and Robin, or do you want to grow them into being their own setter with their own apprentice, and they're going to go out, or, is it that there's going to be 10 crews one day, and hey man, you're in here early. Look, I can cast this vision. We're going to have 10 crews, 10 trucks, 10 trailers, and I'm going to need a foreman. He's going to get his own truck. He's going to go drive around job to job and just check on them and make sure everyone's maintaining the standards that I'm teaching you now. And that's why this is so important for you to grasp, is that I need you to be able to hold everyone else accountable to these standards. And so I'm going to need you in that position. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to get to schmooze customers all day, drive around project to project, drop off some materials. It'll be super great, man. Just real cushy after like 20 years of setting, right? That sounds way better than, hey, just go stick tile to that wall, right? Or go put that laminate in, or go nail that hardwood. Wow, man, that's super exciting to me. I really want to be a part of this company for the next 20 years. I get to show up and just nail down some hardwood every day, day in and day out. Like, where are we going? What are we doing? And so, like,
what's the goal?
Yeah. So I'm sure you were told, you interviewed, obviously you had a specific set of skills they were looking for. But during the interview process, did they not cast a vision to you of what this position would be and where it would go and what the company would ultimately do?
Yes, and I think it's refreshing when an employer can communicate that even before you have the job, right? Mm-hmm. Because part of it is setting expectation, right? That's part of accountability, is setting expectation. So you're expecting us to give you a paycheck every month, and this is what we expect for it, right? So that it's expectation in what this transaction is, and also, the kind of drawing a map, or I'd say painting that, illustrating the culture you're coming into. Mm-hmm. Right? I do have a funny interview story from a previous experience, but that's for a different podcast episode.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I know the difference between entering a questionable culture and a culture that makes sense and feels good. It's a good fit. And I'll just say, curiosity can sometimes get you, because even though going into that prior experience and not feeling like it was a good idea, and seeing the red flags, I did it anyway. I took the job anyway. And I also learned through that. I don't regret taking the job because I learned things.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't quite overall a good, it's not what I wanted. I had expectations about what I want my life to be like. And, I'm also, I'd say bargaining my time for a paycheck as well.
Definitely.
Right. So that's the name of the game, right? So, and there's rules to the game. So I did it anyway. In coming to in my interview with JohnsManville, I don't know, my boss will probably, I don't know, you might see this interview, right? I have to say I don't know if I've ever told him directly. I may have told him directly, but I've certainly, he's a very, very good boss, a good leader, a good, he keeps that vision lit, right, for us, so that the goal is always within sight, and when it does get dark, he's there to kind of shine that light again and say, look, here's the goal, it's a little dark here, this is how we're going to get to it, right? And so I'll say he's probably one of the best leader bosses I've had. Every boss that I've had has had a quality about them that I took along with me. And then of course I've had some bosses that were questionable because I'm an older person and I've had a few work experiences. So, you take the good and you leave the bad, right?
Yes.
And you learn from the bad. Okay, that's an example of what I don't want to replicate as a leader. What was the question, Kyle?
No, well, no, I think that, look, I think that is some great advice, right? Of we're able to
culture.
Culture is important, but you were able to receive a vision and then be reminded of it, right? And so once again, if we're going to look at smaller contracting businesses, we're all very good at doing the thing. Like, it's going to come back to this over and over, folks. I can't, like, you probably feel I'm beating a dead horse, right? But I'm not, because we haven't gotten out of this loop and cycle yet. And so if you're going to hire somebody, how often are you telling this young person working for you where they're going, what the next step is? How do they advance? I'm very focused on company culture and employees right now, because I think that's something that I really need to learn to understand better. And generally the things I'm struggling with is where this podcast kind of goes, because it's my own therapy, folks, but it's here to help you too. I get to work through my issues by having the conversations and learning what I need to learn. I'll be honest, if you haven't picked up on that, there's usually themes throughout the episodes if you look like quarterly. But I think that was something that was probably missing from my life a lot, was that it was like, hey, look, this is how you're going to get to the next step. Because for me, it was always like I had to ask, right? Or somebody's going to come to you and, like, your employee asks you for a raise and you're like, no, man, you don't deserve a raise. You're not doing anything. When did you tell them what the steps were to get a raise? How do they go from making $20 to $21 or $22 or $24 an hour, right? If they want a company truck, how do they earn the company truck? What kind of quality do they need to produce? How much quantity do they need to produce, and how quickly, right? And how do we give them the steps to reach where they need to go so they can do it without asking? I think a lot of times it's, well, we're going to go do this project this week and we're going to go do that project next week, and today we're only going to work on this. Great. What's next? What if I get more done, right? I don't want to have to come find you all the time. Teach me the system so I can work independently and continue to advance, right? And that takes time. It's not going to be overnight. I get that. So teach them how to rip out the carpet or the tile or prep a floor lightly, right? Like, little skills by little skills, but communicate along the way, right? You need this skill, because I think that's the other problem when we do it to I do it to my kids all the time, right? It's, Dad, why can't I have my Nintendo Switch right now? Because why? Because I said so. What answer is that, right? So the real answer is, no, I think you've had enough screen time for the day and I want you to go read a book for a little bit, or I would like you to go play outside, or there's some chores that need to be done, or you know what? Sometimes the answer is, look, your mother's not home right now and I don't know what she has for you, so until she gets back, the answer is no. Like, go find something else to do until I can, get her and I on the same page and I know what's going on. And then we can give you the answer. And I don't know that a lot of small business owners are giving the few employees or employee they have the answers they need to succeed. And then they get frustrated and say, well, they're lazy. They don't want to work. They don't do it to the standards that, I want it done. Well, when was any of that ever laid out, written up, agreed to, signed on? Because how many contracts or sheets of paper, Shawna, have you had to sign that say, this is how we communicate within this company. This is how we fill out this form. This is how we send emails internally, right? I'm sure there's been a lot. Why aren't we replicating this in a smaller business? Why do you think the big business is at the size they are?
Yeah, well, I think and there's also the misconception with corporations that everyone in the corporation just shows up with all of those soft skills required.
Mm-hmm.
But then, we get a lot of training, extensive training, like our internal training is, we get ethics trainings, we get IT security trainings, we get safety trainings. We have certain programs in place where we take those younger folks, those millennials, that idea that millennials are entitled and they want X amount of dollars and they want this and they want the newest computers and they want the company truck and they want all that. They got to work for it like I did. Well, sure. Of course they do, but also, those are perks too in a lot of ways. So if you get a truck, but it comes with that responsibility too. So when you're taking on more responsibility in exchange for more pay. Okay, so if you're and you can quickly become discouraged if you find that you're doing, okay, just hypothetically speaking, I don't know if this ever happens out on a job site because I'm a desk jockey. So you're a helper per se, you're setting tile and the boss is never around. He just shows up to tell you did it right or wrong. Right. Mm-hmm. And then you go, say you go, you've done 20 jobs for him more recently or over the year, and he's giving you more work, but you're not being compensated, right? Or you have no direction. Am I good at what I'm doing? Mm-hmm. Am I not good at what I'm doing? What's the right way? Why don't you show me the right way so that I can do it the right way? And again, it takes time from the leader, the owner of the business. You have to take time out of your day to teach as well. So you're not getting out of any work, okay, in running a business with multiple employees who are all looking for the next rung on the ladder because let's be honest, they want to live a good life, okay? They want to buy things for themselves. They want to have families. So if when you take people into your employment, there's more to it than just, I'm your employer. You don't know me. I don't know you. You show up, you do this, da, da, da. But if you're not being nurtured at your job and the people paying you don't care about your professional growth, you definitely feel it. And so here, going back to what, you're stealing that question, what's your superpower?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you have to tell your employees what their superpowers are. You have to tell them you have to guide them. You have to give them
Yes.
criticism. Yeah, right. So you're communicating on performance with them. You have to tell them what their superpowers are. Otherwise, they're not getting any of that positive feedback, that positive reinforcement. To continue doing what they're doing, because that helps the company and helps the bottom line, or take them aside, in a way that doesn't steal their dignity from them. Right? That's important. You can't take someone's dignity from them when you're trying to train them from doing it the wrong way into doing it the right way. They're a human being. They want to do better. Now, if you just have this crappy person that's in your employment, there's nothing you can do. Is like, again, they have to be manageable as well, right? So you have to have someone who's manageable so that you can help them, nurture them into bigger roles, things where they can take on more responsibility and get compensated for taking on that responsibility, and also having some ownership in meeting the goal, right? So having those celebrations, like you did a great job at awards, like it might sound funny. You hear all that, oh, it's a participation trophy. Well, I mean, when you get a trophy, you feel pretty damn good. It's a signal to you that you're on the right track. So, and you're entitled to feel good about it too, right? I'm doing a good job, high five your team. You can feel proud about that. You can do an end zone shuffle when you meet a goal. We met that sales goal this month. We have a bell that we were ringing. We bought a ship's bell.
Okay. I like it.
Rang the bell. And I hear the bell ringing now, where we're not technically still in the same group anymore.
Okay.
But I hear the bell. So there's other teams ringing the bell. And it's just that positive reinforcement. It makes work fun, because you got to work, right? Might as well make it fun.
That's funny. You're not the only person I know with a bell. So, friend of the show and just friend, Aaron Albrecht at J&R Tile.
Oh.
They've got a bell in the office that anytime they close a project, the lead's actually closed and they've converted it and they're going to do it, they get to ring the bell. All right. You can go to Arby's, right? On the way out the door at Arby's, you can ring the bell if you like the service, right?
Ring the bell. Yeah.
So you make them feel good by ringing the bell.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't surprise me that Aaron has a bell.
She's got great systems. I love what they have going on over there. It's absolutely amazing to see. So
it's psychological. You hear that bell, you know what it means. It means something good happened.
Correct.
So.
All right. I'm going to jump in and interrupt us for 1 minute, and then we will get back to it. Not all foam boards have the high performance that GoBoard does. JohnsManville has been producing rigid foam boards for decades for commercial roofs. What does this mean for flooring and shower applications if they aren't exposed to the same harsh elements that a roof is? If it's good enough for a commercial roof, then it's even better for your flooring, countertop, or shower project, especially at a reasonable price. Visit www.jm.com/GoBoard for more information. Introducing the ultimate solution for flooring contractors, a cloud-based virtual estimating software. Get accurate and detailed estimates in minutes without ever leaving the job site or even the office. With features like real-time collaboration, project management tools, and automatic material calculations, you'll have the information you need to close deals faster and more efficiently than ever before. Try it today and experience the future of flooring estimating. Visit estimates.flooracademypod.com to try it now, or visit the show notes and click on the link over there. All right. So we are back. We are chatting. This is what happens when I do these things live. Should have seen me on the stage at Surfaces. It was even better. I'm like sitting there talking and just stop and I pause and I was like, nope, there goes the train. Went that way. Don't know where I was going. That's how I feel right now. Look, we have accountability. We have so training. That's what we were talking about, right? And leadership and communicating
Boundaries.
the idea and the plan. Well, okay, so boundaries. Where do those come in, right? When am I overstepping? When am I not overstepping? Who sets them? How do we adjust them? What are we doing within this realm? Because I think that's a lot of times that's not even clearly communicated in a smaller business, right? It's everybody, it's a free-for-all, right? Just get the work done. But maybe we need to stay in our lane.
Right. I think that comes with doing. So you learn where the boundaries are as you're doing. I mean, sure, you can come into it knowing some certain boundaries because there's, again, rules to the game. There's rules out on the field. And then you learn along the way, that was a technical foul, right? And then so that we know because of the consequences of that technical foul, this is the boundary, on this specific thing or this general thing.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to learn the boundaries, you got to have some failures, I think. Otherwise, there's no baseline for where you set the boundary.
Well, that's how Kyle got to working on his own. I upset a lot of boundaries because it was.
Are you hard to work with, Kyle?
I don't think so. I'm the guy that asks a lot of questions, right? So like, I'll give you a great example. Okay, so this guy hired me. I think I worked for him for like a week. One, he pissed me off the first day because he was super disrespectful, and he was like, "Look, everything you have looks too new and shiny, and I can't have it looking like you're the new guy." So he took a bunch of dirt and threw it all over my tools and stuff to make them look dirty, and that pissed me off, and I found it highly disrespectful. So then we were like removing carpet, and he's trying to take out like whole rooms at once, and so he's folding the carpet in half, and then trying to roll it up. Right, like this is his system. I was like, why don't we cut it in half? Like, why, and roll it up in strips and it won't fight it, right? It'll be easier to handle, right? And I'm like asking these questions and he's getting frustrated with me, right? And like, just you shut up. He's the shut up and do what I say guy, right? Like, I don't pay you enough to think, like, shut up. Right. Whereas I'm trying to be more efficient and be easier, right? And so the relationship didn't last very long. That frustrated. And so like at some point he came back and he asked a question and he was like, "So that's easier and all that stuff, right?" I was like, "Yeah, everything except rolling up the carpet." Right? And so like I had to I got to get my jab in and be like, "Yeah, everything but this makes sense." Okay. Yeah. Another example is I was working at another company and the same kind of problem. I challenge authority a lot. That seems to be the MO of my life is just challenge authority. I was working for a company and we digitized like old VHS cassettes and stuff. And so I was the guy in charge and I had the whole department. The department was me. And then I got somebody else at some point, but like I was sitting there able to run like editing on like 4 or 5 machines at once while digitizing 4 VHSs at a time, and then I could have it capturing like 2 8mm rolls. And I'm doing all of this myself, like bouncing around in this. I had like 3 cubicles combined, so I had my own giant cubicle, and I was able to just kind of whirl around in a circle and maintain all this stuff and keep it going. And so I had to go to like the manager meeting and whatnot, and we're getting through it, and they're like, "Look, we need more." I was like, You want more out of me? I was like, "Look, I will give you all the time you want. I will drop out of school today. You go pay off my loans and I'm done, and I will work here more." That answer was too smart ass for them, and I was promptly escorted out of the building after the meeting.
So what you're saying is I don't think it's not that you have issues with authority. You question authority, right? But the issue is when authority doesn't know what it's doing. and you're supposed to follow those orders, right? And then you lose respect for that authority because authority isn't willing to accept some input as well. So, it's I had a similar, okay, so I had a situation where I was put in charge. And I knew what I needed to do. I knew I didn't have enough time to do it because it was a big job. And I knew I had a couple of people to help me get this project done, right? And I happened to be fixing a problem that was causing a lot of other issues, right? So here's, Shawna, you're in charge. Okay, great. What does that mean to me? It means here's the goal, here's the roadmap, here's the strategy, here's the timeline that needs to be done. Like, it's a project, right? And I have these 2 staff people to help me, and have an understanding that they also have daily tasks to do, and we have to fit in this extra thing.
Okay.
So I was told after a while at this, not a long while, that my strength was not in managing people. And I thought, okay, well, if you thought I had the qualities to manage and take charge, and now you're taking that back, right? So I didn't, clearly there was some place my performance, he needed to address that with me. And how he said it, however, it was read the tea leaves on what he's saying, right? So being blunt sometimes is good, but you also have to bring some clarity to that, statement. So again, you ask why, not right now. You don't have an answer for it. You need to have an answer for it, I think. That's how you get respect as a leader. So just telling people, barking orders, why are we doing this? We're human beings. We have to understand why we're doing it. Because if we don't understand it and we're not invested in it, we're given any sense of investment in it, we're going to question it. Why are we going down this road? Are we there yet? Does this make any sense? That guy doesn't know what he's doing, and it just breaks down from there, right? So you have to believe in it. Where I didn't believe in it is I don't believe you're being thorough in your explanation of why I'm not managing people isn't one of my strengths. So, and I also had some criticisms myself, hey, I don't think you're supporting me in putting me in this position. You have, what happens in the dynamics of a team is everyone has equal roles, and then suddenly someone is elevated to a higher role, right? The tribe gets a little restless, and so your leadership also has a target on their back all the time. Like, there's always a reason to, criticize, like, look, not to bring politics up, but this happens all the time. Everyone's critical of leadership.
Yes.
So when you bring someone in a leadership role, you have to support their authority too. You have to reinforce their authority, and you also have to make sure they're a good leader too, right? If they're not good and they're not communicating well with the people that they're directing, then there's something that either it's not a good fit. Let's just put it that way, right? We can all agree to disagree, and it's not a good fit. these folks may have different professional agendas they're trying to achieve. And then again, going back to that structure, if this is what happened more recently throughout the pandemic, when people were deciding if they're going to take different jobs, they're going to stay in the service industry, they're going to go get a different job, a desk job, an office job, or they move from an office job to a field job. Mm-hmm. What's in it for them? Because if there's no path past your leader, right? So once in the kind of like as you're progressing in life, professional development means you go up that ladder, you get more responsibility, you get higher pay, you become in charge of more people, mm-hmm. you manage people. But what's in it for you once there's a cap? And a lot of businesses like remodeling, you have the owner of the business. Well, he's not going anywhere until he retires, right? And if he's not communicating what happens after his retirement, there has to be skin in the game for your staff. So call it the golden carrot, whatever, motivation, mm-hmm. reward. You have to have a pathway for people to progress in their professional life. So, and their personal life too.
Yes. Well, and it's huge. I think you need to leave employees better than you found them. They may not stick with you forever, but you need to invest into them and help them become better than when they started with you, so they can leave and bring more value to someone else. But essentially what you're talking about is communication, right? The leader needs to say, this is what you're, good at. This is where you lack skills. This is where we're going. This is what we can do. And maybe there's a cap right now because you're looking to be a two-man team, right? Can you find someone that is willing to do that? And maybe they help you grow the business later, or they decide that they're okay. I think my biggest frustration was I had a young man working for me at one point, and I couldn't get anything else out of him. He had one speed, slow. And I was like, okay, look, man, like, what do you need? Like, what do you want? Where do you see yourself going? Like, I tried to have the discussion with him, right? Like, I took him out to lunch. We sat down. We had a meal. We had a conversation. And I was trying to be the good boss, the good leader, and, like, invest in him and be like, look, man, like, do you want to, is there a video game coming out you really, really want? Is there, like, a car you want to buy? Are you trying to save up and get a house? Like, what do you want? I don't know, man. I just, I feel like I have enough money to pay my bills, and I'm kind of good right now. Right? And so at like, that was him. He was just like, I'm going to be here. That wasn't a good fit for me early on. Like, it's one thing when you're a company of hundreds or thousands of people to have C players involved, because you can function with C players at that point. There's enough other people to do things. But when you're getting going, man, I need an A player. And so I need someone that's going to come in, bust their butt, help me get it done, has goals, wants to be motivated towards something new. And we're not having those conversations, I don't think. Once again, it's well, I'm just a flooring installer. I'm just a tile installer. You're so much more than that. So go act like it's a business. Go have these conversations. Find out what your employees want, and help them develop what they need, right? If I had someone come and they were working for me really, really diligently, but they told me that they wanted to, run off and become a dancer in New York, cool, man. Let's do it, right? As long as you're here and you're working for me and you want to put in the time and the effort and you want to develop yourself here and be more valuable to me, I'm happy to, like, figure out a way to accommodate you so that you can go become a dancer in New York. Like, why wouldn't you, right? It's win-win for both parties, okay? They're going to get what they want, and in the meantime, they're going to provide you with the service that you're doing for them, right? You're buying their time for X amount of dollars per hour, and they get a paycheck at the end of the week for completing the work you handed out. So can I operate on that? Sure, but they need to be motivated, and I need a way to motivate them, and we have to have that conversation. I think what you're talking about is there's a lot of just poor leadership
Yeah.
of, you're not good at managing people. Well, why? What do I need
What's
to
the
improve
vision?
on? Well, correct.
Yeah, what's the vision? How are you going to get people motivated? Okay, so here I'm a little different from you then, Kyle. So if I sit down and I interview somebody and I say, what are your hopes and dreams and your goals, and what do if I'm asking them, what do you want to do with your life? I already have a plan for their life as an employer.
Oh,
right?
I had it. I laid it out
My
for
plan is, but what does that plan entail? Is there a pot of gold at the rainbow for that employee? Like, is that what the so if a prospective person says, hey, I want to be a dancer in New York,
mm-hmm.
I'd want to know, when does this plan begin? When do you see yourself leaving me to go to New York to be a dancer?
Mm-hmm.
If I have 20 years worth of teamwork to get on here, and you're telling me your life goal is to leave. I mean, you have to kind of come with some of your canvas empty, and allow a good employer to help you, see yourself in a different vision, or a vision of where you fit here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is where you could be, otherwise they paint their own canvas. And sometimes it's just that couple of shades. I'm good, making enough money. Looks like, I got some purple, and, it's a Denver Broncos sunset. It's not some fancy Bob Ross painting this guy's got. It's just real simple. Do you need someone real simple just to show up, who's content to just be comfortable where they're at? That's great too. There's roles for that.
Sometimes.
Do you have someone that comes in that's a little more hungry than what you have to offer?
Mm-hmm.
And they leave you because you don't have enough to offer. You have to kind of see where people are coming from. And it's got to be a good fit, ultimately. You can't manage someone who's unmanageable. You have to have people that are willing to share in the vision and willing to have some passion to put behind it. In addition to, it's a job. Every day you go to work, you do this, da-da-da. But you can find some things to be passionate about at work, too. The teamwork. Like, who knows? Maybe, I really particularly love when we were able to give each other high fives over a job well done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because that's where you're all connecting on the same goal. You're all, celebrating a goal, and you feel like you're part of there's some emotion behind it and some inspiration. It keeps you motivated. Something as simple as that. Or, hey, we did a great job. Let's go grab some lunch together and talk about, that's a good time to talk about what people's hopes and dreams are at lunchtime.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're breaking bread together. Let's have that conversation. I think I don't know that that's happening enough. And I think a lot of the problems is, once again, we're looking at a construction industry here. And mm-hmm. So obviously JM interviewed you and interviews everyone that walks in the door. I don't think there's probably a single job that you could get at JM without having to do some sort of interview process. They're not just going to randomly hire someone to even clean the building, right? And so in construction, once again, apologies to everybody once again, my cold, but construction, it's Bobby just graduated high school. Let's hire him. You're coming to work with me today. Here you go. Go do this stuff, right? And then no communication after that on what he can do, where he can go, how he can get there, all of these things.
Yeah.
It's just grab somebody, right? Or because historically, construction gets a bad rap, and it's felons and thieves and murderers and convicts and drug addicts and alcoholics and all these
violent crime. Yeah.
But no one, we're not running background checks. Most people aren't running background checks. They're hiring anybody, and it's just because I need a body to get this thing done so I can move forward, as opposed to Let me
Warm
find
body.
the right fit so that I can actually accomplish the goals I have and move it forward. And they think it would be game changing if all these smaller companies just started implementing an interview process, right? Who are you? Why do you want to be here? How do you fit together? Or how do we fit together? Like, how do the puzzle pieces work, and where can we go? And so it's all got to work together.
Employees that come to do the interview are looking for, I mean, you can't discount what their needs and wants are, right? I think that's what happens sometimes in, it's every man for himself, but I need some warm bodies to labor out the work for me. But I'm not going to invest anything in them except for honest day's pay. What is that anymore? An honest day's pay. Is there a dollar amount on that?
Who knows? I don't even know that there's
a can of worms.
An honest day's pay. I mean, there is. You got to have a standard, but I guess that comes down to knowing your numbers, right? Now, honest day pay is going to be different for everybody, but you got to know your numbers. There you go. Have a budget, folks.
Yeah. I just read Wealth of Nations recently, again, as an adult, and it reads a whole lot differently as an adult. I can tell you that. As a kid, high school, right? You read the cliff notes because like, oh my God, this book is so lit. You're like, oh my God, I can't even, what does this word even mean? Like, so you kind of skim it, you read the cliff notes, you get the general idea. Then for some strange reason, I wanted to read it again after, so many years and reading it, again, though, it really, there's a system, right? And everyone has a role in that system, and this is how the system works. It's a rule book for capitalism, right? And I know, let's not get into like let's not get into the whole debate about which, philosophy is better. It's a rule book. There's different rule books that are written, right? But the rule book for this society is based on that book in a lot of ways. So if you want to know where you fit in society, read the book. And then if you want, you can also tell where, if that's not the cog you want to be, there's a lot of insight in that, to kind of show you what roles are available in society where, you can go into that restaurant and tip well. You don't have to be the waiter or the waitress. And for that's it. Not, we're not entitled to everything, just because, we're born in this society. We're not entitled to it. But you have, and if you're going to work for it, you have to find where you fit too. And you have to be willing to provide your employer with certain qualities. And then you have a right to expect that your employer provides certain, boundaries for you to follow to get better in life, professionally and personally. That's
I think that's,
you gotta be on a team, and sometimes you have an independent role in a bigger, the bigger scheme of things. So,
I think that's a great summary, right? I think that we're gonna kind of leave it there. Essentially, look, there's rules, right? So if you want to use the sports analogy, what you're talking about is within football, everyone has a role, right? And there's certain things, and so if the offensive lineman wants to become a wide receiver, he's going to have to drop a ton of weight and learn how to run really, really fast. Can he do it? Right. Probably not, but maybe. Yeah. Okay, so like you have to be able to cast the vision and let people know this is what's expected of you. You fit here. If you want to go here, you need to develop these skills. Here's how we develop them. And so once again, this is you going as the small contractor and developing the tools to have a training system in place, right? When we show up to a project, we are going to move through it this way every time. And then based on that, now I can break down, if I know how I go through a project the same way every time, now I can break down how do I train the skills to get through the project every time. And it's repeatable, right? Now everyone's going to come in and get taught the same way, so that guy A doesn't get taught differently from, guy B from guy C. And as you grow, guys A, B, and C can then go get guys D, E, and F, and D, E, and F are all taught the exact same way. So everyone works synchronously, as opposed to, well, I was taught this way and I was taught that way, and we developed this over here. No, it's this way. And it's not that we're not open to change. We can change and adapt. However, as of now, we do it this way because this produces X results. Now, is that ever told? No, that's how I was taught. Shut up. I've been doing it 40 years. Stop doing that. My thing is, that's what the bag says to do. So I read the directions and the bag says to do it that way. And so we're going to do it according to the bag, so that I can hold the manufacturer accountable, so that if something happens, I can go and say, nope, I did it to your standard. It's this way, and I don't want to be held liable. I want them to come back it up. And so I'm communicating that. Yeah, I'm communicating that to the employee, though.
Right on the bag.
It's not because...
The boundaries are right on the bag.
Yes. And
the training sets the boundaries.
And you guys got loose boundaries. You got like all kinds of approved, different stuff. You don't have to use GoBoard sealant. You can use 15 other sealants probably.
We're breaking down boundaries here, Kyle.
I love it. No, look, this has been a great discussion. I think there's a lot within it, from how we get set up and be a leader, how we look at it, how we communicate with the employees, how we set the standards and build them up and move them forward. And all of this needs to be happening in order to grow and scale a business in a responsible way. There's a lot of companies that will do growth for growth's sakes, and everything falls apart because the wheels come off, because nobody knows what they're doing. Everyone's crossing over, doing this, that, the other thing. And then you have it's a lot harder to get a ship. Okay, so we can take a canoe, or we can take a ocean liner cruise ship. Okay?
I love metaphors. You know that.
And so how quickly can I pivot a canoe to go a different direction as opposed to the cruise liner, right? We're talking like probably 10 seconds at most, compared to hours to get a cruise liner turned around. And it's really easy when you're a one-man show, chucking a truck, to say, you know what, I don't want to set tile anymore. I'm just going to go do hardwood. Cool, man. You're a hardwood company now. Good for you. If you've got 20 crews running for you, you can't just, we don't do tile anymore. We're all hardwood all the time now. You got 20 crews to move over, right? And so how much longer is that going to take you to phase it out, move it forward, and make it happen?
Right. Yeah.
I'd rather get them in place early than fight my company later on trying to say, you know what? Nope. Now we have these systems. We have these standards. We have all this stuff in place. You got to follow the rules, because people are, oh, you're getting all corporate on me. No, man. If I was structured from the beginning, we're going to just operate more efficiently and move forward. And that's the beauty to all of this stuff.
Expectations are set. If you have the rule that your paychecks go out on this day every month, and you're not following that rule, you can guarantee your employee's going to be calling you. Oh, yeah. Right? So they play by the rules, too. They want rules. Rules are just good to have. They set the boundaries, and then it helps form those processes that just makes everyone's life easier. More, you don't have to ask that question if you already know the answer. Hey, when am I going to get a raise? You don't ever have to having to ask for a raise that's
so bad.
It's so disheartening. Not being told, you might, the question, my superpower, it's an internal, that's a question where I have to address myself, right? Isn't it nice though, when you don't know what to do and someone gives you some shines a little light on it, don't you feel so much better? You feel so much better. You trust the situation more. You're more apt to, you're more apt to be motivated to share in that vision when you know what that vision is and where your place is. So if you have to ask, especially if you're like, you're not getting a raise while everyone around you gets a raise and inflation and, you're just you're just shrinking, right? You're actually becoming, you're falling behind. You have to keep up with you have to keep up
Hmm.
with the price of things. If you're not, if you have to, if it's been a while since you've had a raise, you need to ask for one and find out if that's their plan. Obviously, they have no plan to give you one if you're waiting all this time. Or they're waiting for, like, I think it's BS if you have to ask for one,
I
you
agree.
know?
It was pretty standard when I was at the big brown package mover that, raises were done, I think, in March. It was done
Hmm.
annually. It was an automatic thing. You went in, they reviewed all your stuff with you, and,
Yeah.
hey, you got, anywhere from 0 to 6%, right? And three, it was, generally averaged out at 3. That's pretty standard, but you could get
Yeah.
more, you could get less based on
Sure.
performance, right? And they would go over it
Yeah.
with you, right? Here's now we're going to set up like you only got
Yeah.
2% this year, and we're going to set
Yeah.
these goals on
It's
how
a,
you get here. So,
yeah. It's a percentage also. They're not going, oh, we're going to give you 25 cents more an hour.
correct. Well, and I mean, it depends,
You
right?
know?
So it's look
Yeah.
at a management level when you're on salary, a percentage makes sense. When I have
Sure.
someone that's making $20 an hour, to move them to 22 and get them, or maybe it's 22.50. Get them. Let's round it, and make it an even $100 a week because I like round numbers like that. So we'll get
Yeah.
them from 20 to 22.50, right? And so in order to get that, you could break it down a lot of ways. I personally like to break everything down by you can get paid half of in total compensation, half of what you earn me, right? So if you can go earn me
Yeah.
$200,000 in labor a year, I can give you $100,000 in total compensation, right? And so if they're
Sure.
new, maybe they're only bringing in $400 a day in labor. Well, you can have 200 of it, and that's basically
Right.
where a $20 an
Right.
hour employee would be by the time you add on the extra,
Right.
workman's comp and insurance and all that nonsense. Is
Yeah.
you know there's 160 plus another $40 for nonsense, and you can have that conversation. I need you to produce this amount of work in a day. What does that look like? Well, here's my numbers. Here's how I figured this out. When you can produce
Yeah.
this, I can pay you X. And now
Yeah.
they know where to go. They know how to get there, right? And we can have the discussion.
Right.
Here's the skill sets you need. Here's how you need to be
Right.
able to communicate with people. And it's not happening. Look,
No.
I'm going to teach you all this stuff, and then you go to the guy and you're like, man, can I get a raise? He's like, no, you suck, bro. Like you're not doing
Yeah.
anything for me. Whose fault is that? Is that the kid's fault,
Yeah.
or is that your fault? Who's it really fall
Right.
on? And I think a lot of times we want to blame the kid instead of blaming
Right.
ourselves. And this is where we were talking earlier. So this is actually a really good time to drop your book, right? We're going to blame the kid instead of blaming ourselves. And that goes back to, we
Oh.
did a book of the month a while ago, and we did this book, but it's amazing. So
Yeah.
what's your like big takeaway on this one?
On this book?
Yep, that one.
This book. So it's,
Well, which book
you
is it?
know,
Because we didn't even say that yet.
yeah, you know what? I brought up a completely different book. Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. Not Leif Erikson.
No, definitely not.
So it's, when you have to it's about accomplishing a mission. And the things, I mean, it's a great book. It's, if you like war stories, especially, I mean, it's in its life and death, right? Like this is the ultimate penalty or failure, for not operating it as a cohesive unit is somebody could die. Talk about high stakes,
Hmm.
and what kind of team players you need around you, to accomplish that kind of a mission, a Navy SEAL mission, you know. Now it's not as, the risks aren't as severe out there in, when you're remodeling a house. But the liabilities are still high. If you mess something up, you got to make sure you can take care of it. You got to cover that, right?
Yes.
You need a team that functions well together to avoid any kind of liability to begin with. It's a good book. It's it really it shows you where, like, if this team player is not quite on his best game, this could happen, right? And so, and I think there's even some examples in the book where they've taken people out of the mission because their head wasn't in it or whatever, and they can't afford to lose a life, and that person is a liability. So that person needs something, needs more training, needs, some kind of, has a need or a want, or something isn't being addressed. So rather than use that person on this mission, we pull them out of it so that the team succeeds. We remove the risk factor.
Yeah, but I think the big takeaway is ultimately, like, they're taking, the leader takes ownership for any failure, right? So when if the janitor fails, if I'm running my restaurant, right, if the janitor fails at mopping the floor properly, it's my fault as the owner, as the boss, because I didn't do what I needed to do to get the message down clearly to how that needs to be done. And and so it's not their fault they didn't listen. You're screwed. It's, what did I do wrong to allow that to happen? And that way of thinking doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah. Ultimately, it's okay. So in stick with the janitor, right? Say he left some water on the floor. Someone slipped and fell. Now there's a lawsuit. The janitor's not being sued. The owner of the restaurant is being sued. So ultimately, even if, and this is why it's important to make sure your team gets what they need and make sure they're doing things and check in with them, right? Because if they don't, this is a liability. So the janitor, should have known, hey man, when you mop the floor, and it's training, right? Wherever the training comes from, it comes from the top. The top facilitates the training. After you get done mopping the floor, just make a sweep and visually look to make sure you got all the puddles, right? Or there's some lippage on that, not to go flooring on you, but there's some lippage there. There's a puddle. Maybe we should replace that floor before it becomes a problem, because janitor comes along and he can't quite get all the water off of there. It just comes in from nowhere and pools again, and some lady slipped, right? Ultimately, extreme ownership means let's say crap rolls downhill too, right? But ultimately, the owner is financially responsible for the liability that occurred because he owns it. That's extreme ownership. You're a leader, you have a team of guys you're taking out into a war zone, and you knew this guy wasn't quite fit, but you didn't take him out, and now you're missing two additional, two team members lost their lives, right? So, I mean, it's not apples to apples exactly, war story, but I mean, the leader's ultimately responsible for that failure.
Yes.
Let's go back to, I was told I'm not a strong manager of people. Well, I reported to the boss. I saw holes in his strategy, like his expectation too, for me to take on a management role and not provide and communicate certain things that said to the people I was managing, Shawna is in charge here, and you need to work with her. She's the authority. You can't have chaos initially, right? You already have mutiny before you even step into the role. So ultimately, I was responsible as managing those folks. Ultimately, it doesn't matter if they weren't manageable or not. It was my job to find a way to manage them.
Well, and it was your
my,
boss's job to find a way
and
to
it was my
encourage you
boss's
to,
job
hey, you need to figure out
support
this.
me
Yes,
in that.
exactly.
Right.
So shit rolls uphill. Sadly, like I think that's the point of the book, right? Is you said it earlier, shit rolls downhill, and like I think that's the traditional system, but ultimately we need to look at it the opposite way. It should roll uphill.
It splatters uphill. Let's be honest. It hits the fan, man.
Oh, when it hits that's where most contracting businesses are at. Is it hit the fan and we're trying to clean it up and we don't even have a system to do that. Yep. So that's what Floor Academy's here for. We're getting you the system to clean it up because it hit the fan. We're gonna fix it all.
Give you some insights on what to do and what not to do in extreme ownership.
Yes.
Hey, you got that. It doesn't matter if that person didn't do the job or whatever. Ultimately, you're responsible. So you have to be able to take that responsibility, understand, look at it, and not, and move on and change where you need to. And also being able to have the shoulders to accept the extreme ownership and the consequences of not having your ducks in a row.
Totally. All right, we're gonna wrap it up here. We kept going. We were trying to, and then look, good stuff happens. That's why I love this, right? Yeah. And so, look, folks, I know. Look, we're almost at an hour and a half. I understand. Okay, I hear the comments of Kyle. Why do you go an hour? Why do you go an hour and a half? I hear them. I appreciate them. I truly do. Here's my side of it. Okay. I want to make sure I get the best content possible for you all to listen to. It takes some time occasionally. I've been asked if I could make 30-minute episodes. I find that 15 minutes, it takes like 15 minutes to get warmed up and into it. And then by the time we really get going, we're past 30 minutes anyways. So it's on-demand content. And you don't have to remember where you're at with this stuff, okay? You really don't. Just jump into the conversation at any point. Hear what we got going on. You're going to find a nugget, and if you take a nugget away from your 15 to 20 minutes and you can find a way to apply it, you're golden. And then if you come back to it and you start listening again and you get 15, 20 minutes and you can get a nugget and you find a way to apply it, you're golden. So I'm sorry. I'm never going to make them shorter. It's not going to happen. If one of them ever went 3 hours, I would release it at 3 hours, and I wouldn't bat an eye at it. It is. Look, you're getting the authentic thing. I'm not trying to force anything. I'm not trying to get it dwindled down. Like I like the naturalness of it. It's the conversation that, you know what, this could have happened between Shawna and I at the convention. We sat down, we had a beer, we enjoyed the conversation, and this is what you're getting that conversation. And you get to be the fly on the wall. So work with me a little bit here. I'm sorry, I'm not going to shorten them. Love them, embrace them. They're beautiful the way they are. That's going to do it for us this week. Thank you, Shawna, for joining me. Thank you for giving insights into your corporate background, how that works, how it helps you be successful, what we can take away from that. If the show's helping you, you can go to patreon.com/Floor Academy. $5 a month goes a long way at helping the content to continue to be produced. You can head over to flooracademypod.com. You can pick up a sweet t-shirt. There's now socks available because someone asked if I could do socks. And,
socks are good.
If you want to get really, really supportive, there's some swimsuits over there. So, that one guy, I was joking with one guy, and so he was like, okay, he was like a bikini. I was like, okay, fine, I made up a bikini. So his wife has a bikini. I got requests of, is there something with more coverage? So now there's swimsuits with more coverage than a bikini available.
You got those pantaloon ones?
No. But,
no, that's not the style anymore.
There's fun stuff. There's a fanny pack, there's socks, there's swimsuits, there's shirts, there's hoodies. I got all kinds of options. If you want throw pillows, I think I can make throw pillows. So if you want to support the show and have, Floor Academy throw pillows on your couch, hey, I'll make them for you. Yeah. The swag is fun stuff. Make sure you subscribe. Head on over to the YouTube channel. I'm up to 160 subscribers, so only 840 more to go until I have 1,000, and that's a milestone towards getting monetized. So if you want to head on over there and subscribe, I would very much appreciate it. And mastermind groups. New mastermind group starting Thursdays in April. So if you're interested, once again, go to flooracademypod.com. There is a mastermind little clicky button that tells you all about it, little video to watch. If you want more, you can sign up to do a call with me. We'll talk about what I got going on in the mastermind groups. It's essentially a awesome accountability and therapy group of 5 business owners that meets bi-weekly, and you're going to move your business forward. It's going to make you stronger. You're going to get to the bottom of your issues. You're going to put the systems and processes in place to move your business forward. And if you want to talk to anybody that's doing one of those groups, I'm happy to connect you so you can hear firsthand what they have to say. All that said, one last sponsor read to go, and we'll get out of here. I hope you all attended the International Surface event this year in Las Vegas. What a great event. It was packed to the event was packed with wall-to-wall products. Tice has released the Tice 2023 Product and Trends Lookbook, packed with the newest products hitting the market this year, capturing a snapshot of what everyone was able to discover on site. Make sure to access the lookbook in the show notes. There's a link. You'll be able to get over there, see all the cool stuff that was out there. Lots of products, lots of trends. Check it out. Find out what they got going on. Excited for next year. I only got to wait 11 more months, and then we can go back and do it all again. And that's going to do it, folks. We'll catch you next week.